what a colossal screw-up this is?
There's a new investigation into how members of President Trump's inner circle were texting one another war plans for Yemen, how a journalist got to be part of the group. So now what's the fallout and what is the Signal app? I'm Ann Ahern. This is The Brief. The editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, posted an article saying he was part of this texting chain. He realized, wait a second, this is real, once he saw that there were bombs being dropped in Yemen. It all started on March 15th. It is believed it's National Security Advisor Mike Waltz who added Goldberg to the chain. However, since all of this has come out, President Trump has defended Waltz. The war strikes in Yemen are about targeting the Houthis.
Wait, Marianne, tell us who the Houthis are.
Good point, Rose. Rose is my producer. The Houthis, they've been targeting warships, American warships, for more than 2 years, and they're aligned with Hamas. So why did they use this app, the Signal app, and not use secure phones, secure computer systems? All of this is feeding into those who have been criticizing the Trump administration that some of its top leaders do not have experience. So as I mentioned, Goldberg thought at first all of this wasn't exactly real. He didn't even know if perhaps someone was trying to see if he would report misinformation. But once he saw that it was real, he got out of the group. Still, he did save screenshots to show what some of them were saying to one another, including Vice President Vance, who raised alarms and didn't know whether or not this was such a great idea. Since the article has been posted, Vance says he and Trump are on the same page.
Can you tell us more about the Signal app?
The Signal app claims to be encrypted, so that means it is designed so that only those in the chat group can see what is being said. But that's not the same thing as having classified information. Now remember, this is President Trump's inner circle. However, initially, he has denied the report.
I don't know anything about it.
However, since all of this is percolated, the president has some new thoughts.
There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use.
Democrats are already calling for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and others to be fired. But Hegseth is digging in. He says there was no classified information shared. However, Jeff Goldberg says not so. Even weapons were part of this text chat.
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
The specific time of a future attack, specific targets, including human targets, meant to be killed in that attack, weapon systems, minute by minute accounting of what was about to happen.
And in fact, every one of those people should be fired. They should resign. Pete Hegseth is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in history, and he is further demonstrating that by actually uploading classified war plans onto an unclassified network. And you're right, it puts our men and women in uniform in jeopardy, not just with this incident, but for the future. Because if I were our allies, I would think twice about sharing classified information with us.
I'm hearing wide disagreement from Democrats and Republicans on how harmful the release of this information is. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and the CIA Director John Ratcliffe appeared before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Now, this was already scheduled, but they faced very tough, pointed questions from the Democrats.
Did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not, are you denying, Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat?
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
My communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee.
Senator Warner, not the only Democrat to raise the question of why didn't they use a more classified way to share this information?
You are the CIA director, okay? This has happened. We know it's happened. Did Jeff Goldberg somehow, did he create a hoax that allowed him to become part of this signal thread? Please answer the question. You don't insult the intelligence of the American people. Did he invite himself to the signal thread?
I don't know how he was invited.
You don't know that the president's national security advisor invited him to join the signal thread? Everybody in America knows that. Does the CIA director not know that?
The discussion that took place in that signal chat group was a conversation reflecting national security leaders and the vice president around the president's objectives.
So yes or no, would you approve that for public release?
I don't feel I can answer that question here.
The National Security Council released a statement about all of this. Let me read from it directly. It says the message thread appears to be authentic, but they also added there were no threats to our service members or our national security. Even with that statement, what might happen now?
If this was the case of a military officer or an intelligence officer and they had this kind of behavior, they would be fired.
As for that Signal app, 3 days after the Yemen operation, an email was sent out from the Pentagon warning they had found a vulnerability and advising not to use Signal anymore.
So tell us, what are members of President Trump's inner circle saying about this now?
Good point, Rose. First of all, Waltz, he wants to know how did Goldberg get added to the group. And then President Trump says he's looking into the use of Signal, warning that's probably not a good idea.
We are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room.
The main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. It was, I guess, from what I understand, took place during, and it wasn't classified information. So this was not classified. Now, if it's classified information, it's probably a little bit different. But I always say you have to learn from every experience.
And then there are, of course, the Democrats who are looking for someone to be fired because they're saying they cannot recall ever that the heads of national security, intelligence, state, and defense all would use their phones to share such classified information before. What about your questions? What questions do you have? Share them with us. That's The Brief. Thanks for checking in.